We open on the most powerful man in the Greek world, standing at his own front door. He's just won the biggest war in history. 10 years at Troy, and he sails home a champion, the King of Kings, the man who burned a whole city off the map. He walks inside to a hero's welcome, and within the hour his wife kills him in the bathtub with an axe. This is the murder of Agamemnon, and believe it or not, that's one of the tamer things that happens in this story. Here's why this one is worth your time. The Odyssey is constantly bringing up this murder, but never explains it. Everywhere Odysseus goes, somebody brings it up to warn him, don't come home like Agamemnon. But the poem only points at it and keeps moving. It never tells you about the fire that crossed the sea, or the carpet that was a trap, or the woman prophesying her own murder to a crowd that just wouldn't listen. So we're going to cover this story, and get ready because it's a weird one. Start with the household Agamemnon is sailing home to. His wife and court have been waiting 10 years, but they're not planning a happy homecoming party. His wife is Clytemnestra. While he was gone, she's been running the kingdom, and she's been nursing a pretty big grudge. 10 years back, Agamemnon killed their own daughter on a beach to buy himself a good win for the war. If you saw the last video, you know that story. Clytemnestra has not forgotten this, and who would? But even before Agamemnon gets back, word of his victory reaches home. And the way the news travels might be familiar if you're into Lord of the Rings, and it's honestly pretty cool. You know the beacons of Gondor in Lord of the Rings? One mountaintop catches fire to call for help, and across the range the next one lights, and the next one racing over the peaks. The beacons are lit! Gondor calls for aid! The Greeks put that exact scene in a play 3,000 years before anyone filmed it. The night Troy falls, they send the word home by fire. A chain of bonfires, mountain to mountain, 600 miles across the open sea, from Troy all the way to Argos in a single night to carry one word. One. Peter Jackson didn't invent that shot. Aeschylus did. And the person watching for that signal fire, like Aragorn in Return of the King, was thrilled to finally see it. Not because she was stoked that her husband Agamemnon won the war and was coming home, but because she was like, finally, he's coming home so I can take my sweet revenge. So Agamemnon's ship docks. He hops out, gets in his chariot, and then his chariot rolls up to his palace, and Agamemnon climbs down. Beside him is a woman named Cassandra, a Trojan princess he's dragged home as a war prize. Agamemnon is not a good dude. Remember Cassandra, though. She matters in a minute. Clytemnestra comes out to greet him, and she rolls a path of cloth from his chariot to the door, and she asks him to walk on it. This is not a gesture of respect. It's actually kind of a weird trap. That cloth is dyed sea purple, the most expensive color in the ancient world, worth more than its own weight in silver, and he's meant to walk on it, grind it into the ground with his dirty feet. Yuck! But the waste isn't even the worst of it. Walking on cloth like that was an honor you gave to a god. For an ordinary man to do it was the kind of arrogance the Greeks thought the gods would kill you for. And Agamemnon knows it. He says so right there. He's like, this is for the gods. I can't walk on this. It's not for men. And then she talks him into it anyway. In under a minute, she pokes at his pride, asks if a great conqueror is really going to stand there being shy. So he does it. He walks that purple road into his own house. And he kind of condemns himself in front of the whole city as an arrogant jerk who probably deserves to die because he's acting like he's a god, basically. Clytemnestra got him without even picking up her axe. She just used his ego. Remember Cassandra, the princess in the chariot? Her part might be the craziest in the whole story. Cassandra could see the future perfectly, every single time, exactly right. And she was cursed so that not one person would ever believe a word she said. So she stood in Agamemnon's courtyard and she screamed because she could see the murder about to happen inside that house. She described it in detail before it happened. And every person there just watched her walk inside to die. So she broke her prophet's staff on the ground, and then she went in anyway, because she already knew how it was going to end. She always did. She saw the future. So what happened inside that house? Well, here's the thing about Agamemnon. He's a warlord, a man who spent 10 years in armor, and a fighter like that is only dangerous with a weapon in his hand. So Clytemnestra waited for the one moment he had nothing. The most powerful man in Greece survived a 10-year war, sailed home a champion, and died naked in his own bathtub, killed by his wife with an axe while she counted the blows out loud. She threw a robe over him first, like a net, so he couldn't stand and couldn't fight. Caught like a fish, she says, and then she counted 2 blows, 1, 2, and then a third to finish it, just to make sure. Then she threw open the palace doors, stood over the body, and told the whole city she wasn't sorry. Good, honest work, she called it, the work of my own right hand. Now you're probably thinking, jealous wife. She wanted him gone. She had a lover. She took her chance. But that's not the whole of it, because Clytemnestra had a reason, and it's the reason we started with. This is the man who killed her daughter. He put their own girl on an altar and killed her to buy a good win for his war. Again, not a good dude. And then he sailed off and fought that war for 10 years, while his wife stayed home with what he'd done. So, when the city calls her a monster, she has an answer ready. She asks them why they never called him one. He killed their child and walked away a hero. She killed him for it, and somehow she's the villain? This stops being a jealous spouse. It's a debt that needs to be repaid. And she wasn't even the only one in that house with a score to settle. You see, she had help. Her lover, a man named Aegisthus, who also happened to be Agamemnon's cousin. And Aegisthus wanted the king dead for his own reasons. And they go back a whole generation. And it's one of the darkest things in all of Greek myth. Agamemnon's father and Aegisthus' brother were brothers, and they were feuding. So Agamemnon's father invited his brother to a great feast to make peace. Then he killed that brother's children, cooked them, and served them to their own father at the table. Does that remind you of a different story in popular media? Maybe Game of Thrones? I don't know. The man ate his own sons and didn't even know until it was done. So that's the kind of family we're dealing with. That's the bloodline Agamemnon comes from. Remember when I said he wasn't a good dude? A house that has pretty much literally been eating itself for generations. So not one person here is settling an ordinary grudge. Every last one of them is paying back something monstrous that came before them. So what do we make all of this? Well, here's one way people read it. Look at the pattern. Agamemnon kills his daughter to get his war. His wife kills him to pay for the daughter. His cousin helps because Agamemnon's family once slaughtered his. Every person in this story is somebody's avenger, and every avenger turns into the next person's monster. So maybe the Greeks didn't keep telling this one to figure out who the hero was. Maybe there aren't any heroes. Maybe they told it because it's the clearest picture they ever drew of how revenge actually works. It doesn't end. It just keeps going. So think about Clytemnestra standing over that body. Is she a murderer? Or is she just the next person to be handed the knife in a long line of people who are handed knives, stab people, and then get killed themselves? She thinks it's finished. She thinks the debt is paid. The door is shut. But Clytemnestra has a son, and right now, he's out there in the world, growing up, and learning the exact same math his mother just used. And that is the next story. Revenge never really ends. It just gets handed down. If you're into stories like this, hit like and subscribe. The next one is already coming.